Peace and love. I am Minister Kadeem, and today we want to share with you all um, as it relates to the people not including U.S. citizens. We the people, quote, does not include U.S. citizens. Barrow versus Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, 32 U.S. 243. The American people and U.S. citizens are two different things. Let me share my screen so you guys can follow along with me here. So, a U.S. citizen, a U.S. citizen does not have any rights. So that says a lot, right? What you think are rights are just privileges, benefits. And all of that comes with licenses, permissions to do things that you already had the right to do. So by being a U.S. citizen, by claiming to be a U.S. citizen, you are saying that you don't have any rights but privileges. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States does not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. So you got to ask yourself, what is the territorial boundaries of the United States? A lot of people think it's the actual North American continent, but it's actually just the 10 square mile in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. The United States is a federal corporation and it only exists on paper. You can see proof of that in 28 USC 3002, I think it's D, right? So therefore, the U.S. citizens of the District of Columbia residing in one of the states of the Union, because it's a union of states, right? There were originally 48 states, and 2 were added on, right? So if you are from New York, you were a New Yorker. If you're from Pennsylvania, you're a Pennsylvanian. If you're from Indiana, Indianian, right? You're from Nevada, Nevadian, right? Texan, Californian, um, you know, Alabamian, Floridian, right? So these were the original states of the Union. So U.S. citizens residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the federal government as individual entities. You know how you think about work, the 9 to 5 job, and how you just feel like a slave? That's because technically you are a slave. It's just modern day slavery. You know, if you look in the Black's Law Dictionary, you look up the word employee, you'll see that it is synonymous with slave, and that employer is synonymous with master, right? So we have become property and franchises of the federal government as individual entities. A U.S. citizen, upon leaving the District of Columbia, becomes involved in interstate commerce. For a resident, does not have the common law right to travel of a citizen of one of the several states. So a citizen, a United States citizen um, has a residence, right? And notice they always like to ask you, where do you live? Right? On every application, because they want to identify if you live within their territorial boundaries, right? And so as a resident, you are a subject. You're considered a subject, a slave, right? Of the United States, which is a corporation. Corporation is a dead entity. Um, it only exists on paper. We, the people, give the corporations life. So it might be correctly said that there's no such thing as a citizen of the United States. A citizen of any one of the states of the Union is held to be and called a citizen of the United States, although technically and abstractly, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. This can also be confirmed in the definitions section of Title 5, United States Code, Title 26 USC, and Title 1 USC. Therefore, a U.S. Citizen is a piece of property. If you read any of the old court cases prior to the Civil War, where slavery was the issue, the debate was always over property rights. Therefore, a U.S. citizen is a slave. The 14th Amendment defines what a U.S. citizen is. Quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So if you were born or naturalized in the United States, you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States. The so-called 14th Amendment criminally converts U.S. citizenship completely upside down from what the founding fathers intended it to be. Quote, the rights of the individuals are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by their citizenship to the agencies of government. Civil rights under the 14th Amendment are for federal citizens and not state citizens. Federal citizens, as parents, have no right to the custody of their infant children except subject to the paramount right of the state. Okay, and U.S. citizens can even murder their unborn children by committing the common law crime of infanticide because the unborn are not, quote, persons. They are by definition state citizens, which means the bar members, foreign agents of the crown, and the so-called courts are engaged in genocide against the American sovereignty. And this is proof that it has nothing to do with race and has everything to do with slavery, peonage, bondage. The unborn are not included within the definition of person as used in the 14th Amendment. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. It is evident that they, U.S. citizens, have not the political rights which are vested in citizens of the states. They are not constituents of any community in which is vested any sovereign power of government. Their position partakes more of the character of subjects than of citizens. They are subject to the laws of the United States, but have no voice in its management. If they are allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws is derived from the sanction of a government in which they are not represented. Mere citizenship they may have, but the political rights of citizens they cannot enjoy. What is a subject? Subject may imply a state of subjection to a person, such as a monarch, without much sense of membership in a political community or sharing in political rights. It may, on the other hand, simply indicate membership in a political community with a personal sovereign to whom allegiance is owed. The term citizen in the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. And a U.S. citizen is a fictitious entity and has no rights. Therefore, the U.S. citizens residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the government, of the federal government as individual entities. In our opinion, it was not the intent of the legislature to restrict the operation of the statute to those only who were subjects of the United States government. Upon the other hand, the 14th Amendment, upon the subject of citizenship, declares only that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Here there is a limitation to a person born or naturalized in the United States, which is not extended to a person born in any place, subject to their jurisdiction. The right of trial by jury in civil cases guaranteed by the Seventh Amendment and the right to bear arms guaranteed by the Second Amendment have been distinctly held not to be privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States guaranteed by the 14th Amendment against abridgment by the states. And in effect, the same decision was made in respects of the guarantee against prosecution, except by indictment of a grand jury contained in the Fifth Amendment, and in respect of the right to be confronted with witnesses contained in the Sixth Amendment. The technical niceties of the common law are not regarded. A jury does not figure ordinarily in the trial of an admiralty suit. The verdict of the jury merely advisory and may be disregarded by the court. The rules of practice may be altered whenever found to be inconvenient or likely to embarrass the business of the court. A court of admiralty acts upon equitable principles. A libel of information accusation does not require all the technical precision of an indictment at common law. If the allegations describe the offense, it is all that is necessary. And if it is founded upon a statute, it is sufficient if it pursues the words of the law. And there was a citizenship of the United States and a citizenship of the states, which were distinct from each other, depending upon different characteristics and circumstances in the individual, that it was only privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States that were placed by the amendment under the protection of the federal Constitution, and that the privileges and immunities of a citizen of a state, whatever they may be, were not intended to have any additional protection by the paragraph in question, but they must rest for their security and protection where they have heretofore rested. The privileges, we read that already. So yeah, there have always been two classes of citizens in America. Why isn't Kamala or Donald Trump talking about these things? Because it doesn't matter which one of them gets elected or selected. They're all part of the same chessboard. They're all pieces on the chessboard. And they do not have your best interests at all, if you ask me. They may pretend and act like they do, but they don't, in my opinion, at least. So moving forward, yeah, the Constitution for the United States of America talks about two classes of citizens. Quote, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. The courts have talked about the two classes of citizens as shown below. Quote, there is in our political system a government of each of the several states and a government of the United States. Each is distinct from the other and has citizens of its own. Quote, the 14th Amendment creates or at least recognizes for the first time a citizenship of the United States as distinct from a citizenship of the states. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. Both before and after the 14th Amendment to the federal Constitution, it has not been necessary for a person to be a citizen of the United States in order to be a citizen of his state. There are two classes of citizens, citizens of the United States and of the state, and one may be a citizen of the former without being a citizen of the latter. Citizenship of the United States does not entitle citizens to privileges and immunities of citizens of the state, since privileges of one are not the same as the other. The United States Supreme Court quite thoroughly expanded on the two classes of citizenship in the case Maxwell versus Dow, whereas it stated that there was a citizenship of the United States and a citizenship of the states, which were distinct from each other, depending upon different characteristics and circumstances in the individual, that it was only privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States that were placed by the amendment under the protection of the federal Constitution, and that the privileges and immunities of a citizen of the state, whatever they might be, were not intended to have any additional protection by the paragraph in question, but they must rest for their security and protection where they have heretofore rested. These two classes of citizenship continue to this day. Privileges and immunities clause of the 14th Amendment protects only those rights peculiar to being a citizen of the federal government. It does not protect those rights which relate to state citizenship. Because there are two classes of citizens, and also because of circumstances that will become known below, it is necessary to assert your sovereignty. In order to understand how and why you assert your sovereignty, we need to have some background knowledge. A state citizen is one of we the people found in the preamble to the Constitution. You can be in a state without being in the United States. In fact, if you read their codes, the United States, in the United States Code, is the District of Columbia and the territories. The Puerto Rico website even talks about it. What is a U.S. citizen? So that concludes this short bill on two classes of citizenship that exist in America that we should be aware of. One being a U.S. citizen, and one being a citizen of the state where you domicile. New Yorker, Pennsylvanian, Michiganian, Floridian, Californian, etc. So peace and love. Don't forget to like, share, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And I'm tapping out. Peace and love.